You know what's crazy? 13 years ago, I closed my first real estate deal for $22,000 of profit. And then 12 months later, my team and I wholesaled and flipped dozens of more houses and made over $1 million in profit. Now in today's video, I'm going to explain to you the process of how I did my first real estate deal step by step so you can get out there and start doing deals yourself. And be sure to stay to the end because I'm going to recap with my vital learning lessons from this deal so you can get out there and start wholesaling houses for yourself. Now in July 2012, I ended up wholesaling my first house. This was a 5-bedroom, 2.5 bathroom single family house with 2,692 square feet located in El Cajon, California, which is right here in San Diego County. And as you can see, the condition of the property wasn't that bad. It was just a bit outdated with some repairs needed, but it was going to need a full cosmetic renovation. Now, finding great properties like this one is a vital task of any professional real estate investor, and it can also be pretty challenging for some. So the first thing you have to do is to get out there and do whatever it takes to find the deal. Now, some people, they like to door knock, some people, they put out bandit signs or spend a lot of money on marketing. But what I did was I utilized the MLS and worked with a real estate agent to close this deal. And the MLS is the multiple listing service, and it's actually the database of all leads on the market in your area. So I found this flip from using our MLS approach to getting on-market deals, which I've been using for 13 years now to consistently get my deals. And I saw this house on Thursday, May 31st, a day after it popped up for sale on the MLS for $385,000. I then looked at the listing description and the photos and thought, there might be some distress going on with this property. So I picked up the phone, I called the agent immediately the same day I saw it, and the agent confirmed that yes, this is a house in a distressed condition with the seller in a distressed situation. And from our conversation, I saw that the agent was receptive to working with me. And she said if I was able to get out to the property to view it, that she'd be open to getting an offer in with me. Now, before I went out to the property to view it, I mentioned that the ballpark range that I'd have to be in would be the low 300,000s, and she didn't balk at that. So I knew that I had a potential deal on my hands. And now the very next day, on Friday, June 1st, I went out to the property to view it, to verify the distressed condition of the house. I checked out the neighborhood, and I also went out there to make the agent happy. I then got back to my computer the same day and sent in the offer terms to the agent at a price of $328,000, which was $57,000 below the list price. Now, before I get ahead of myself, before you get a house under contract, there are two main things you need to find out about the property. First, you need to go out there and you need to find comparables. And second, you have to find out the renovation costs for the house. So first, what are comparables? Comparables are similar properties to the property you're looking to buy that will give you an accurate idea of what the property should sell for in its best possible condition after it's been renovated. And we call this price of what the property should sell for the ARV, which stands for after repair value. So how exactly do you find comparables? Here's what you need to do. You need to find properties within half-a-mile radius from the subject property. So this is the property you're looking to wholesale, to flip, to buy. You need to find properties that are renovated in the best possible condition. You want these properties to be sold within the last 6 months, so not 18 months ago, within the same city and zip code, and then with ideally the same bed bath count or as close as possible, and then plus or minus 20% of the square footage of the subject property. Lastly, you preferably want to find these within the same neighborhood if you can. Now, my goal is always to try and find 3, but always the more the merrier, because the more comps you find, the more confidence you'll have in analyzing your numbers. Now, to be quite honest with you, comping this property at the time was very hard because I found one comp on Horizon Hills Drive that sold at $580,000. I found another comp that sold on Circo Drive that sold at $565,000. And the hard part was that these were beautifully renovated comps that were in the same zip code, but were in a much nicer neighborhood with nicer views, and they both had pools, whereas my property did not. And I knew that my property wouldn't sell at those high 500 prices all fixed up, but it began to give me a gauge of what it could sell for. So in essence, I found the absolute ceiling. Now, the other comp I found wasn't renovated amazingly well, but was in horrible condition. But this property sold on Kono Drive at $422,000. So I had a big range of what my after repair value could be, which is actually so vital to getting my numbers right and to be able to make the largest wholesale fee possible. So at the time, I did the best I could, and I assumed that the ARV of my subject property would sell at $525,000. Now, as I started analyzing my numbers, this was starting to look like a smoking deal as a wholesale or fix and flip, but because of the uncertainty in the ARV, I knew that I was going to wholesale this one for sure. Now, after getting your comparables and getting your ARV, it's now time to get your renovation costs. Now, these renovation costs, they can be tricky to get, and it might take you a little bit of time to get it right. But the best way to get your renovation costs down to the T is to meet with your preferred general contractor of choice at the property and walk through the scope of work, which is every single item that a house needs to be repaired in order to achieve that ARV. However, since I was wholesaling this property, I didn't need to do a walkthrough with a general contractor, and I knew I could do an analysis from my computer to determine the renovation budget. Now, given the condition of this property, meaning it wasn't in horrible condition and would really need minor cosmetic updating throughout the whole entire thing, I estimate that the renovation cost would be about $15,000 to $20,000 per square foot. So when I average this out, I assume that the renovation budget on this house would be a total of $50,000, and then I plug this into my deal calculator. So you found the property, you have your comparables, and now you have your renovation costs. Now what we need to do is analyze the deal to understand exactly where you need to offer to make this a profitable deal. So what I always do is use our deal calculator to use all the information we get from the agent and from viewing the property to plug that in so that we can get the largest wholesale fees possible. Now for my initial analysis, I had an ARV of $525,000, I had $50,000 as my repairs, and a $328,000 purchase price. Now at first, I was thinking I could squeeze out a $50,000 wholesale fee from this deal. And for my first deal, that would absolutely be amazing. But my biggest uncertainty here was that resale value, the ARV, because the comps, right, as I mentioned, were so sporadic. But I knew there was value here. I just didn't know the ARV. But I did know if the true ARV was $50,000 less than $525 at $475, I could still make this deal work. I could still have over a $20,000 wholesale fee. Now this same deal analyzer I've been using and refining for 13 years to wholesale and flip all of my deals. Since you made it this far, I'll give it to you for free, and you can grab that at realestateskills.com/calculator, and I'll put that link in the description down below. Now I'll give you a very important example of why you need to use this calculator if you want to wholesale real estate successfully. So most newcomers, when it comes to wholesaling real estate, they'll all use something called the 70% rule. And here's how this rule formula goes. You take 70% of the ARV, you minus the repair costs, and then you minus your wholesale fee. That then equals the maximum allowable offer that you're able to offer on a property. So if we use some rough numbers, let's say the ARV was actually $475, we take 70% of that, we have about $332, then subtract the repair cost of $50,000 and the wholesale fee of $22,000, and guess what? You're left with a maximum allowable offer of $260,500. So this means in order to make a $22,000 wholesale fee, the max that you can offer is $260,500 when using this formula. But when using my calculator, you get your numbers down to the T, you don't underbid, and you can actually offer $328,000 to make a $22,000 wholesale fee. So in short, this means when you use the 70% rule, you are severely limited. You have to underbid the property, whereas when you use the deal calculator, you can actually offer $60,000 more to make the same exact wholesale fee. So in short, this calculator beats out using the newcomer 70% rule every single time. So be sure to grab the calculator if you haven't yet. All right, now that we have all of our numbers ready, it's time to submit the offer. So for a quick recap so far, this property was listed on Wednesday, May 30th. I then called the agent on Thursday, May 31st, and then I went out to the property on Friday, June 1st. I then submitted my offers that same day, Friday, June 1st, to the agent so that that agent could have a referral write up the contract for me. Now, the main offer terms I submitted that were going to be put in the contract were a $328,000 purchase price, a $15,000 earnest money deposit, a 7-day inspection contingency, and a 14-day close or sooner. So now on Monday, June 4th, I had the written contract in my email inbox. I made sure that everything that were in my offer terms was in that actual contract. I then signed it and sent it back to the agent. Now all that was left to officially get this property under contract was to have the seller sign this contract. Well, a couple days later, the agent told me that the seller actually wanted that deposit due immediately upon acceptance rather than short sale approval. So this type of deal was a short sale, which means that after the seller accepts my offer, I would then need to wait to see if the bank would accept my offer, and this could take up to a month. So there was no way I was going to put in a deposit to just have money sitting there in escrow for a month. So I countered, and to make the seller more confident, I said I would increase my deposit 10% of the purchase price, which was $32,800, but I would deposit it within 3 days of short sale approval, not from seller acceptance when they signed the contract. Now this small concession was all that was needed for the seller to be happy, and on Friday, June 8th, the seller signed the contract, and I now had the fully executed contract. Just to check you're tracking with me, the property was listed on May 30th, and about 9 days later, I had it officially under contract on June 8th. So not too bad for my first deal so far. Now, since this property was a short sale, I now had to wait for the bank's response, like I mentioned, and this could take up to a month. Thankfully, I didn't waste this time. I used this time to find my cash buyer, which is the next step. So for this particular deal, I found my cash buyer through good old-fashioned networking. And if you want to see how I find cash buyers through networking, I made a video on it. I'll put it here in the description so you can find cash buyers for your wholesale deals that way. Now, 13 years ago, at this time in my life, I would attend all the Real Estate Investor Association meetings in my area every single month, and I began to develop relationships with the top fix and flippers in my county. So I began to know the types of deals that they wanted and the types of returns that they wanted. So when it came to this deal, I then sent the details of it to my top 3 cash buyers, and thankfully they were all interested, but one cash buyer was the most serious, the most responsive, and ready to take action immediately. Now, from communicating with the agent, I had a really good feeling that the bank was going to actually accept that offer at $328,000, so I began immediately negotiating with the cash buyer to make a deal happen. But like me, they were a little hesitant about the ARV, but at the end of the day, they thought it would sell at $475 rather than that $525 number. So I adjusted my numbers on my deal calculator, and the fair wholesale fee price came to $22,000. Once again, not bad for my first wholesale deal. And one of the great things about the deal calculator is it allows you to see the deal through the fix and flipper's eyes. So if this property sold at $475,000, which is the ARV, and it stayed on the $50,000 renovation budget, and I knew that my cash buyer would get an 11% deal ROI and a profit of $44,700 on this deal. Now, this is important because I want them to make a profit on the deal, and I consider this a single or double for them. And yes, they're gonna make more profit from fixing and flipping it than I would wholesaling it, but they also have way more risk when fixing and flipping it, whereas I have zero risk when wholesaling it. So now a few weeks later, on Monday, July 2nd, I got word from the bank that they approved my price of $328,000. Now all that was left was to close the deal. Now, once the offer price was approved, at this point, the timeline for the deposit, the inspection contingency, and the closing timeframe all kick in. So there's 3 days to put in the $32,800 deposit, 7 days to inspect the property, and a closing of 14 days or sooner by Monday, July 2nd. Now, since we had 3 weeks to wait on the bank's response, our cash buyer had already done all of their proper inspections and due diligence and was very happy paying the $22,000 wholesale fee. All that was left to do was transferring ownership from our name off the contract to their name. Now, because this was a short sale, the closing process was a little trickier than a traditional sale. The bank did not want the name of our company to be off the title chain until 30 days after the property closed. So we actually performed a tenants in common where we now had 1% ownership of the property and they had 99%. And then on the 31st day after closing, we took ourselves off of the title, and now the cash buyer now had full ownership. And I want to make a point here that as a real estate investor, you have to be creative to close deals sometimes and a lot of the times. And most people would have faltered or stopped right here with this minor speed bump, but I was not going to let anything stop me on this deal or anything hold me back from getting my first deal. So I figured out how to do it successfully. Regardless, the deal officially closed early on Friday, July 13th, and a $22,000 wholesale check from this deal was now in my hands. And I completed my first real estate deal, my first wholesale deal ever, and this was one of the best days of my life. And this deal was more than just the money to me. For me, it symbolized doing things that at first I never thought were possible, right? At first I was a kid making minimum wage, and then I learned about wholesale real estate and made $22,000 on my first deal. So it absolutely blew my mind. It's been life-changing, and I haven't stopped being in real estate since then. All right, now let me give you the 3 learning lessons I had from this one deal so you can get out there and start wholesaling. Number 1, do not let age hold you back. I see this all the time, and throughout the years, I've talked to hundreds, if not thousands of people that are the ages of 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, and they bring up their age and they either say, I'm too young or I'm too old. And really, all that is a story you're just telling yourself that is not going to serve you in life nor in real estate, right? This first deal that I did brought in $22,000 of profit, and I was 20 years old at the time. If I would have let age hold me back, if I would have made up excuses, I would have never got started. So don't let age, no matter how old or young you are, hold you back. Now, number 2, you don't have to be perfect. You just have to be close, right? I shared with you that my initial ARV was $525,000. But guess what? I was $50,000 off. And I shared that to show you that I'm not perfect. Nobody's perfect. And if I waited to be perfect, or if I needed to be perfect, I would have never completed this deal. And I would never be where I'm at today, being a professional real estate investor and helping thousands to wholesale, fix and flip, and invest in real estate across the nation. So don't wait to be perfect, just get started. It's better to be close than to be perfect. Now, number 3, get mentors. Mentors have been to where you want to go. Mentors can tremendously speed up the process and help you avoid mistakes. This mentor here aided me in getting my start, and we still have an amazing relationship today where we work on deals together. And to this day, I've invested hundreds of thousands of dollars into mentors, and the return has always been exponential, let alone the years of trial and error saved. That time is priceless. To where now here at Real Estate Skills, we mentor others to get started wholesaling, fixing, flipping, and investing in rentals because it's such a proven path in real estate. And if you want to see some of my mentees who are absolutely crushing it wholesaling and flipping, you can check out their case studies at realestateskills.com/watch, and you'll see how we're doing deals like these all over the country. And at the end, you'll be able to schedule a call with my team and I to see if implementing our strategies will work for you in your market. I'll put that link in the description so you can take advantage of it and so you can check it out. Now, if you enjoyed this breakdown, please let me know in the comments below, and please give this a like and a subscribe for the algorithm. This is Alex Martinez with Real Estate Skills. Time to get that first or your next wholesale deal. Cheers, and I'll see you in the next one.